Okay, hello and welcome. This is day 3 of the Mago Solstice program, and we will be talking about goddess and female divine books that were published in 2015. This is a program that is being recorded live, and one of the things about live programs, they have a lot of charm because they are not polished and more authentic, I think, but there sometimes are technical problems. So I want to say as we're getting started that if you lose me, give me some time to get back. Give me 5 minutes, and if my internet connection fades. It shouldn't happen, but if it does, give me a minute to get back. Okay, so all right. I am your host, Hearth Moon Rising, and I am speaking to you from the Adirondacks of way upstate New York. And I am a published author myself. We won't be talking about my book because it came out a few years ago. But I am a Dianic priestess, and I write a lot about animals. Okay. And what we are going to be doing is talking about, I think, of 5 books. I will be reading a description of several of the books, and then we will have an interview with an author, and then I will go back to some more books and talk about them. Okay, so one thing I have to say is that I am not sure about how to pronounce all of these names. So my apologies if I mangle your name. If we do this type of program again on Mago Academy, we're going to have to ask the participants to include a pronunciation of their name because I'm not sure I've got all these names right, but I will do my best. Okay. The first book here is called Locust Girl, a Love Song by Merlinda Bobis. And the description of this book is, most everything has dried up, water, the womb, even love among lovers. Hunger is rife and survival desperate, except across the border. In the desert, one village is reduced to eating sand and locusts. One night, the village is bombed for plotting to cross the border. 9-year-old Amadea gets buried underground and survives by sleeping. 10 years later, she wakes up with a locust embedded in her brow. 16-year-old Binabe finds her while scavenging for food. The girls bond as they walk out of devastation. Theirs is the story of the strays walking the endless dry to get to the border, to cross the last green haven on earth, the 5 kingdoms where the last waters, seeds, oils, colors, and fires are controlled. The border is guarded to keep out the strays, lest they waste these precious resources or cross with terrorist intent. It is this border, this wound, that Amadea traverses as she walks the desert with a locust, her compass toward hope and redemption. Perhaps it is possible to repair the human heart with her small life. And a little bit about Merlinda Bobis. Filipino-Australian writer and performer Merlinda Bobis has received numerous awards for her prose fiction, poetry, and plays, among them the Pre-Italia radio fiction and the Australian Writers Guild radio play for Rita's Lullaby, the Steele Rudd Award for the Best Published Collection of Australian Short Stories, the Philippine National Book Award, and the Judge's Choice Award. Bumbershoot Fair Seattle Arts Festival for White Turtle, The Kissing. The Carlos Palanca Memorial Award for Literature for her poetry, and the Philippine Balagtas Award, a lifetime award for fiction and poetry in English, Filipino, and Bicol. Her poetry book, Summer Was a Fast Train Without Terminals, was listed for the Age Poetry Book Award, and her novel Banana Heart Summer for the Australian Literature Society Gold Medal. The novel also received the Philippine Golden Book Award. Her most recent novel, Fish Hair Woman, in Australia won the 2013 MUBA Award and was shortlisted for the 2013 Davitt Awards for the Best Crime and Mystery Books by Australian Women. In the Philippines, it won the Juan C. Laya Prize for Best Novel in a Foreign Language 2014. Fish Hair Woman will be published in Spanish in 2016. Bobis's plays have been produced mostly as her one-woman show in Australia, Philippines, US, Spain, France, China, Thailand, and the Slavic Republic. As a multi-genre writer and a performer for stage and radio, Bobis has worked with artists from various disciplines. She is a senior lecturer in creative writing at the University of Wollongong, Australia. Okay, so that is Merlinda Bobis, who is our rock star. She is a very well-known author. Okay, so, and next book here is an anthology of writing that was published by Mago Books, and it was edited by Helen Heisuk Wong and Kali Cargill. And this description of this anthology is, She Rises Volume 1 may be seen as a guidebook to the consciousness of the great goddess, the primordial consciousness of we in she-he by contemporary goddessians. The question, why goddess feminism, activism, and spirituality, taken as the warp, is interwoven with the weft of the answers provided by 92 contributors from around the world. She Rises puts forth ever-unfolding patterns of goddessian thoughts, experiences, and visions expressed through a variety of works, including short writings, poems, essays, artworks, and research papers. Structurally, She Rises taps into the gynocentric power of the numeric symbolism of 3 and 9. And we will be talking about Helen Huang, one of the editors of this anthology, later in the program. The second editor is Kali Cargill. Dr. Kali Cargill is an Australian author, artist, and psychotherapist. She has published 5 books, including Don't Take It Lying Down, Life According to the Goddess, an exploration of women's reproductive autonomy. Okay, and Dr. Cargill has done a lot of work in editing for Mago Academy and Mago Books. And I have read She Rises, and I found it very interesting book. So it's highly recommended. Okay. And our next book, book that we'll be talking about is called Female Sperm Whale and Other Feminist Poems by Elizabeth Hardy. And Elizabeth Hardy is with us today, and we will be having a short interview with her in a moment. First, I want to read a short excerpt about what this poetry book is about. The title, Female Sperm Whale, was inspired by the opening feature poem of the same title. I wrote it after seeing the documentary Blackfish. An old mariner claimed that when a female sperm whale gets harpooned, her screams sound exactly like the screams of a human woman, and I found this account chilling. This collection of 20 poems that span 5 years of time is poetically dealing with all the psychic and physical pain that's automatically included by default for womankind and by extension the entire planet. My poems address domestic violence using imagery based on real-life incidents, depression, alienation, contempt for the patriarchy and predatory capitalism, gender and economic disparities, lust, disillusion. It's about being human in a gender-engineered world that's dauntingly out of control. What comes out is a righteous angst against a cold, dysfunctional, behemoth system that hopefully will spawn action for change, or at least make the world a bit warmer for those seeking warmth. Okay. And Elizabeth Hardy recently self-published her debut poetry book, Female Sperm Whale and Other Feminist Poems. She is woman-centric, hip-hop influenced. This book is woman-centric, has hip-hop influenced themes, is invigorating the mind and soul with a unique perspective on the human female condition. It's a necessary acquisition for a refined poetic palette. Stay posted for future publications. And Elizabeth Hardy is on Facebook. Okay, and we are going to have an interview here. Okay, and all right, okay. So far this is working. Oh, wait, let me get your microphone on. Okay, now can you hear me, Elizabeth?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We're doing good. Okay. All right. The first thing I want to say, I guess this is more of a comment than a question, is that the title of your book, Female Sperm Whale, is it's very interesting. It's kind of a jarring juxtaposition because when you see the word sperm, it definitely conjures up male, and of course there are female sperm whales. There must be, but anyway. Do you have anything to say about that?
Oh, certainly. I chose that title purposely. It was meant to be a double entendre. It was meant to be jarring, so I'm glad to hear that it was, that you found it to be so. But yeah, for that exact reason, that women are in this world that's pretty much controlled and named by men, or has been for the last few thousand years. So that's what inspired the title.
Okay. Now, tell me, what connection do you draw between women and the abuse of animals and ecology? How is that connected for you?
For me, that's connected, and this isn't a criticism of Christianity, but I believe that a lot of the capitalism viewpoint on nature being something that they can acquire and exploit for resources. It really seems to have its origin in Genesis, because men have been encouraged to believe that this earth was created for them and for them to exploit. And I feel like, what's happening right now with all the climate changes, the pollution, I mean, these things are, you can't even argue against them happening anymore. Like Miami Beach, it's getting slowly flooded from the bottom because it's built over very porous limestone. So you've got this corrosive salt water seeping up. I mean, these are realities that I don't think people can pretend aren't occurring anymore. And so for me, part of what has caused this disaster is just the male energy being completely out of control. Like, I really do believe that. Because I think females are more inclined to be more compassionate. I feel like we never have lost that ability to connect with nature. It seems like men have, especially since the Industrial Revolution. I hope I'm making sense. These are great questions.
Yes. I just wasn't. I was quiet because I was listening to you, not because you were in the stratosphere. Okay. Speaking of climate change, the nations of the world just got back from Paris after having a few weeks of discussion about climate change. Have you been following that?
I have.
Okay, what are you?
Go on.
Oh, I was going to say, I was just going to ask you what your thoughts were about that, and you were just going into that.
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, my fiance and I were just talking about that last night, because he wanted my opinion as well. And I know it's kind of cynical and bleak, but I feel like ultimately the powerless came together and came into agreement, but the powerful just ignored them, which is pretty much what always seems to happen ultimately. So I feel like the people that want change and realize it needs to happen, I just feel like they've been so disempowered and disenfranchised that they don't think that they can make that kind of change possible, because we're limited on resources and finances, accessibility to the means of creating real change. It's not that it's not wanted, it's just that we don't seem to be able to do it. It's like we're just stuck in this system. And it's unfortunate, because I really feel like people want change. They don't want the world to just fall apart. They don't want to be disconnected from nature or each other. I really don't believe that about humanity.
No, there was a lot of pressure on these leaders to come to some agreement. This pressure was pretty strong all over the world. Yes. The next question I want to ask you, with all that's going on in the world and with all that's happening with women, it was, I don't want to even call it backlash. It's that word has almost become too cliche. But with all of the pressures on women as well as the environment, what do you do to avoid becoming overwhelmed with the way things are?
It's difficult. I do a lot of writing. I wasn't actually planning on bringing this up because it's an anonymous blog that I keep, and I don't keep up on it in a regular manner. I used to call it my gutter blog, but a lot of what I write about, I actually fancy myself a cyber feminist, so I try to analyze, certain situations and advertisements and movies and music videos, and that's my response, because I remember quite a few years back, I had read a story online. It was on alternate.org about this girl who had gotten raped by some football players in her high school, and she ended up getting punished because she was a cheerleader and she refused to cheer whenever those players were on the field, and she got in trouble, not them. And this was quite a while back, before rape culture was a term in the lexicon of everyone's mind. And I was really disturbed by that, and that was a really long time ago. But I remember, I think it was Gandhi that said, "Be the change you want to see in the world." So I remember feeling like totally hopeless and powerless because I felt like a lot of the discourse that I wanted to hear wasn't happening. So I started writing about it. I started fighting back. I had even kept a Facebook page quite a few years ago about 12-year-old rapists or something like that, because there was this group on Facebook that was actually making fun of 12-year-old sluts, and it horrified me that that was something that was like encouraged and done. Thankfully, that page has been removed because there was so much, public backlash against it. But you have to realize the internet's had this whole, time to change and evolve. It's gone from being something that was accessible by like geeky guys in the mom's basement, that whole idea and notion. But now everybody is coming together and they're communicating, and everyone is sharing a piece of their life experience. And it's pretty interesting. But yeah, that's how I cope with a lot of things that make me like angry or feel helpless, especially when it comes to feminism and the quality of women, because there's still gross inequities, and you get angry.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and so internet activism is one of the ways that you cope with it. And it's unfortunate that your activism has to be anonymous. I know that there are a lot of feminists on the internet who are anonymous in their blogs, and maybe in 10 years we won't have to be anonymous in what we're doing. Yeah. Do you have any goddess influences? Do you have any particular goddesses that inspire your poetry?
I wouldn't say so, because my idea of God, just growing up and turning into an adult, and even today, like it's more like an energy. It's a divine animation, and I believe that any kind of creative endeavor, there's going to be a bit of divine inspiration behind it. So, I'll admit, like sometimes when I'm writing, it almost feels like I'm going into a slight trance state. And there's poems that I've written, and I'll, because I've been writing for over 2 decades, there's poems that I've written in my life I'll go back and I'll read, and I can't believe that I wrote them. Like, it feels like someone else wrote them. I'm not saying I'm channeling anything.
Do you feel any feminist foremothers or writers influencing your work, either directly or indirectly?
Definitely. Bell Hooks, she wrote Communion. She's definitely influenced me as a female writer. Dorothy Parker, a lot of her work has influenced me. Another person that has influenced my writing, although they're not a female, is actually Bukowski. Charles Bukowski is a huge influence on me as well. But as far as women go, I'd also say Sylvia Plath, Emily Dickinson, just the typical run-of-the-mill kind of female poets.
Okay. All right. Well, Elizabeth, would you be willing to read a poem for us from your book?
Oh, from the book? Sure.
Oh, but it doesn't have to be from the book. It could be.
Okay.
Read the one you had picked out.
Okay. Thank you. It's called Those Kids. Those kids, they could have been jellyfish. Their mama only wished that they'd be doctors to lawyers. But mommy dearest, it's not death I fear, not the finality of life, which I realize will persist, but the fact it extends and spins on, we breathe and exist to not perish, is the little I cannot comprehend. And how once I needed you to hold my hand everywhere. Now all that separates us is pure poetry and another worthless rhyme. Son, who has time for time? That's the poem. You can't see it.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you. Now, I looked up your book on Amazon, and I downloaded it. And I just want to mention to people that it's on Amazon Kindle, and you have to, I had some trouble finding it because I looked under books and it didn't come up. Then I went to Kindle, and then it came up and it said, "This is adult material. Are you sure you want to download it?" And I think maybe the word sperm in the title, they thought it was different than it is. So just if people are interested in getting the book, go to Kindle, and then when they ask you if say it's adult material, it's safe to download, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah.
I would even say it's safe for work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay for work.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Elizabeth, for being our first author interviewed on this program. We really appreciate you coming here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. Blessed be.
Blessed be.
Okay. So we are moving now to some more books that were published this year. And next I want to talk about a book by Marie DeCoque called Heal Your Feminine Essence, A Transformative Journey Within for Women Who Wish to Be Free. And here's the description of this book. Womanhood is more than motherhood. Womanhood is creation. Oh, and by the way, this is a nonfiction book, in case you haven't figured out. The first book was novel, then we had poems. This is nonfiction. Womanhood is more than motherhood. Womanhood is creation. Discover the vital, forgotten information about your essentially feminine, truly magical capacity to create your own physical, material, emotional, and spiritual well-being, along with a comprehensive self-help womb purification program to help women who want to heal with powerful tools for transformation. After many years of using these tools for myself and clients, some of them survivors of sexual abuse, I have adapted and put them in a certain order to make the transformative process as effective yet as gentle as possible, mostly without having to tell or explain our disturbing stories. That repetitive conversation about the negative sexual experience is the wound. When we finally focus on it shortly, we do it according to a carefully prepared strategy, and then we forget that story. Also learn about rejuvenating power of implosive orgasms and multi-orgasmic sacred sex according to the ancient teachings of the Tao. We don't have to be sexual acrobats to achieve deeply satisfying sexual pleasure. Finally, find out why women have lost their womb wisdom according to channeled guidance from Gaia, the thousands-year-old battle in the hormonal arena over our rainbow frequency endocrine excretions. Okay, and a little bit about Marie DeCoque. After 20 years of meditation, magical passes, Tai Chi, and Qigong practices, female spirituality studies, ritual, and Reiki work, the consciousness inside Marie's body became a clear voice that she could finally express. Okay. By the way, at the end of the program, I will be putting up again where you can get these books that I'm talking about today. They are all available on Amazon, and Marie Koch's book is available on Amazon Kindle. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to talk about Ancient Spirit Rising by Peggy Eyers, Reclaiming Your Roots and Restoring Earth Community. Come back to your roots. Drawing on cultural studies and contemporary social justice, the new book by Peggy Eyers, Ancient Spirit Rising, Reclaiming Your Roots and Restoring Earth Community, examines the loss of our vital ethno-cultural connection to tribe and place, and why there is a trend to borrow identities from other cultures. From the wealth of resources available today, an authentic self-identity can be reconstructed from old, new, earth-centered societies using the timeless values of matriarchal societies and indigenous knowledge as our model. A weaving of analysis, evocation, and promptings of the heart, Ancient Spirit Rising offers strategies for intercultural competency, healing our relationships with Turtle Island First Nations, decolonization, rewilding, restoring an ecocentric worldview, returning to the old ways, creating a sustainable future, and reclaiming peaceful coexistence in Earth community. With extensive notes and exhaustive references, Ancient Spirit Rising is an essential compendium for change. Okay. Peggy Eyers writes about sacred land, indigenous mind, and the holistic principles of sustainable living. She is a member of the Celtic mtDNA-based Helena clan. World clans descended from mitochondrial Eve, as traced by the 7 daughters of Eve, with more recent roots connecting her to the mythic arts and pagan traditions of both England and Scotland. She lives in the countryside on the outskirts of Peterborough, Canada, on a hilltop with views reaching for miles in all directions. Okay. All right. And this is our last book here, The Mago Way, by Helen Heise Kwong. Again, published by Mago Books. And Helen Heise Kwong is one of the editors of She Rises that was described earlier. The Mago Way, Rediscovering the Great Goddess from East Asia, Volume 1, is a crystallization of Dr. Huang's feminist, intellectual, spiritual, activist endeavor. 1, to search for my own East Asian, Korean gynocentric cultural and historical background. 2, to discover the overall features of Magoism, the mytho-historical theological matrix that venerates Mago as the supreme divine. 3, to reinstate the pre- and proto-patriarchal mytho-history of Magoism from the perspective of Old Korea. 4, to assess cross-cultural parallels with worldwide goddess traditions. And 5, to delineate the metamorphic nature of the Magoist cosmogony. Let me say that again. 5, to delineate the metamorphic nature of the Magoist cosmogony. Okay, and let's a little bit about Dr. Huang. Dr. Huang is the author of The Mago Way, Rediscovering Mago, the Great Goddess from East Asia, Mago Books 2015, and co-editor of She Rises, Why Goddess Feminism, Activism, and Spirituality. As founder, she directs and writes for the Return to Mago e-magazine, which you can find at magoism.net, Mago Academy, and Mago Books. And you can access Magoism e-magazine and Mago Books through the Mago Academy website. Right. And to sum up here, where you can buy these books, As I said before, they are all available on Amazon. If you don't find them under Amazon Books, look for Kindle. Locust Girl is published by Spinifex Press in Australia. You can get it from their website if you live in Australia. Heal Your Feminine Essence is also available on Amazon. She Rises, The Mago Way. You can get it through the Mago Academy bookstore or from Amazon. And I believe that Mago Books gets a higher percentage if you order it from the bookstore. So if you live in the United States, they would appreciate if you bought it from them. Then Ancient Spirit Rising by Peggy Ayers is published by Stone Circle Press, and you can get it on that website and also on Amazon. And as I mentioned before, Female Sperm Whale is available from Amazon on Kindle. Okay. And there are quite a few more days of the 9-day solstice celebration. I think this is only day 3. So there's 6 more to go at least. And if you go to magoacademy.org, you can access the other days of this program. And you can also access Mago books and Mago Return to Mago e-magazine from that website. Okay, so this program has been recorded and it will be available on my website and on the magoacademy.org website. My website is hearthmoonblog.com. And I thank you for tuning in today and for allowing me to be your presenter. Blessed be.